Today is Wednesday, November 16th, and my name is Ren Sherling. I'm interviewing and filming Cathy Ory. This interview is being recorded for the Maria Rogers Oral History Program and the Boulder Action for Soviet Jewry. Cathy, how are you today?
I'm fine.
Good. Could you tell me when and where you were born?
I was born in Los Angeles, California, in when and where? Okay, where and when? Yeah, Los Angeles, California, in 1957.
Mm-hmm. Did you stay in the same area growing up, going to school?
Almost. I moved to Tucson, Arizona in my senior year of high school.
Okay. And what did you do after you graduated high school, as far as academics?
High school, went to college.
Where did you go to school?
First I went to NAU, Northern Arizona University, and then I stayed there just a semester.
Okay.
And then I came back down to Tucson and went to the U of A, University of Arizona.
Okay.
And then I okay, go ahead.
No, sorry.
Well, and I got a bachelor's degree in education, early childhood education, but I decided I didn't want to be a teacher in a classroom. And then I was sort of casting around for something else to do, and I ended up being in the master's program for computer science.
At the U of A?
At the U of A. So I got a master's in computer science.
And how long did you stay in Arizona before you decided to come to Boulder?
Well, then I got a job with IBM, and
Okay.
I was working for them, and they decided to move their printer operations up to Boulder.
Okay.
And that was in 1985.
1985. Okay. So before your involvement with the Boulder Action for Soviet Jewry, were you affiliated with any other organizations as far as volunteer work, like that?
I probably was, but I can't remember specific ones.
Okay.
Yeah, it's too long
Nothing
ago.
specific.
Yeah,
That's okay.
you know, whatever I did, I guess it didn't last that long. I was mostly working, so at
Okay.
that point, I don't think I did that much volunteering. And working and skiing and hiking and stuff like that.
How did you hear about the Boulder Action for Soviet Jewry project?
I actually heard about it from a friend of mine who heard about it herself, maybe from the newspaper. I can't remember where she heard about it, but I heard about it from a friend.
And what about it? What about its goals? Just kind of stood out to you. Why did you want to become interested in volunteering with the organization?
It just sounded interesting to work with people that were coming from the former Soviet Union and meet them, and secondarily teach them English. I had no background in teaching English as a second language before that.
So English as a second language, and you were a tutor, correct?
Right. I would come once or twice a week and just practice speaking with them.
Do you know any other languages besides English?
No.
Okay. What qualifications, if any, did you have to pass, or what other experiences did you have to have for that position as an ESL tutor?
I didn't have any experience as an ESL tutor before that. But like I said, my training was in early childhood education. I really liked teaching, but I liked teaching one-on-one. But then I got into computers and was doing computer programming for a long time. So I would say there wasn't any. You know, they did have a little training program. I don't know, 6 weeks, I think. You know, once a week, six week training program where we would come in. Excuse me, and someone would be telling us sort of how to teach them. That's so vague. I mean, that I can't remember. That part I can't remember.
Was it age-specified groups, or was it like children, you know, junior high, high school, age kids, adults, or was it just a broad? I mean,
For what?
You didn't focus on teaching English to like a specific age. It was just
For the BASJ?
Yeah.
No.
It was just.
It was
families.
Whatever. I think they pretty much wanted you to teach to adults.
Okay. All right. And when did you get the opportunity to actually tutor your first family? Could you tell me a little about that process?
Well, I wanted to tell you before the training program. I remember the last day of the training program, one of the families came in, or they had several families come in, new American families who had already been through some of the BASJ programs, and they came in to tell us, you know, what their experience was coming to America and stuff. And I remember that the sister of the woman, like I was with a family with a woman, a wife and a husband. So the wife's sister and her family came in. I remember that very clearly, where the two adults could barely speak English because they had just arrived, maybe, I don't know, a few months before that. But their daughter was speaking for them. And so they would say something in Russian, and then the daughter would translate because she was young. She was about 11 or 12, and she had already picked up a lot of English. So that I remember very clearly.
How much background information about this family did you know about before you met them face to face?
Well, that was the sister's family.
Okay.
I guess I don't really remember how much background I had about the family that I was working with.
Okay.
Very little.
Okay. Okay. So as far as their background from the former Soviet Union, you didn't know their education, their English skills, which obviously you said weren't very well at the time.
Well, now are you talking about the family I worked with? Okay, let's start again. Okay. So the family I worked with, did they tell me? I think they, like when I first started, let's see, there was the husband, the wife, and their son, who was 5, and then the wife's parents were also with them, and they were in the beginning they were all living in the same apartment. So I had heard that the grandma, the wife's mother, she had actually been an English teacher in Uzbek, in Tashkent, and so her English was better, obviously, because she was teaching English. In fact, she was teaching teachers of English. She was training people to be English teachers. So I could communicate with her very well. And but the other adults, the wife knew a little bit more English coming in, and the husband didn't know any. I mean, he was really starting from scratch. And I worked with him mostly. So I spent the majority of my time with him. And yeah, I just remember coming in, and they're all standing around me, they're all looking at me, and the little boy's hiding under the table because he was very shy the first time. And they're like, I was the star of the show. It was fun. And then we just started talking a little more, and they through the wife's mother, she told me sort of their background and what they went through to get there, and how they came. They were just allowed to take 2 suitcases of belongings out of the former Soviet Union. Remember that.
Do you know how long their journey took to get to the United States?
It was long, because I think they had to take a train from Tashkent to Moscow, probably to Moscow. And that was a long train ride. And then I don't know how long they stayed in Moscow before they could actually fly, and I don't remember the route they took. I'm sure they told me, and I forgot.
Going back to your tutoring, could you tell me a little more about that process, about sitting down and teaching these families English when they barely know any to begin with?
Right. Well, basically, the husband and we just sat with a piece of paper, and he just barely knew like enough to ask a few questions. So that's how we got started. I remember him taking a piece of paper, and we would draw pictures, and I would say this, an intersection, like there's the intersection of a street. And then, table, chair. I would point to things around the room and say the names of them. That is also pretty fuzzy, way back in 1993 when I started with them. That I just remember sitting at a table initially. And then, even the letters, I guess he must have known the letters, because I don't remember having to teach him the individual letters. He was very talkative, and he sort of picked up the spoken language quickly. I don't know how I would have done it, because I didn't have any. I had a few materials. They must have given us some idea and some materials to use initially, but I can't remember what they were.
How long did it take before you felt that he was comfortable, that he knew a lot more than he knew, that he could get by in everyday life here in Boulder? Like, how long did it take for him, from the time that that you met and he spoke very broken English to the time where you felt that he was comfortable, like conversational English?
He got very comfortable with me quite quickly.
Which helps.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now,
definitely.
I can't really tell you about the others. I would say, I mean, with other people, him talking to other people, his accent was really thick. And I think he had a hard time making himself understood, at least for about a year, probably. But that's just a vague estimate. I really don't know the answer to that.
Did you work with the other members of the family?
I did, to a lesser extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but there were other tutors helping them?
Yeah, I think they must have had other tutors coming to them specifically. Yeah, I think I was assigned specifically to the husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been in contact with this family?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah?
We're still in contact.
They live in
Well,
Boulder?
the family I was working with the most closely, they moved to New York. So
Okay.
now they live in, well, I guess you don't want me to tell exactly.
No, it's fine.
Okay, so they moved to the New York area.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
So they could have more opportunities.
Okay. So they were doing well as far as economically finding jobs here.
They had a hard time. I mean, initially they had to take very menial jobs like nurse's aide, and auto body shop helper. Very very low pay. But they, especially the wife, she went back to school, and first she was going to study nursing. But then she stopped and she went back to school in computer science, and she got a degree in computer science, and she has a very, very good job in New York right now. And the man, he does more things like interior decoration and renovation and stuff like that for houses.
So even though they started kind of at the low end, they continued to work their way up and became fortunate enough to move to the East Coast.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think they felt like they had more opportunities there. But no, they worked really, really hard. I think if it was the reverse, like if I had to go to Russia and do what they had to do, I don't know, I think I would have been a puddle of tears all the time, because it's so hard to learn things in a new language when you're an adult. It is really, really hard.
So overall, you feel that they adjusted well, given their circumstances.
Yeah, but they were very strong and very brilliant, very bright.
And this was the first or second family that you were involved with?
This is really the first. There was really only one.
Really
well,
only one?
I'm sorry. There was two. Yeah, I had another one later on, an older couple.
Okay, could you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So I guess since my main family moved to New York, then I asked for another family to work with, and so I got these two. And they, being older, it was even harder to learn English. But they loved having me to come and to come to their house and visit them. And they actually, especially the woman, picked up on it quite quickly, even though I don't think she had any. This is our cat, Pony. She's looking at you.
Yeah.
You can come in, Pony, and go get a drink. She also had very little English experience. I think they were from Ukraine, and so it was a little slower with her. But eventually she got to the point where we could have a decent conversation. And then I had my first son, and I would bring him over there, and she would get on the floor and play with him. When he was a baby, and she would hold him. So that was fun. And then I helped her with her citizenship, studying for the citizenship test. So I was with her for quite a while too, at least five years.
Really?
And I have been in contact, except her husband died, unfortunately, about a year ago. And I sort of lost touch with her because I think she was depressed, and she was with her son in Longmont. And then I actually saw her in the King Soopers about 2 or 3 months ago, and I said I'd call her, and I just haven't had a chance to call her.
But aside from those two families, you haven't worked with anyone else as far as tutoring them, be an ESL tutor?
Right. Now, what I did do, I actually started sort of a group. I don't know how I even started this, but I was meeting with a group of new Americans at the library about once a week or so, and I would bring materials and and stuff to do, to have a little English lesson as a group. And I did that for about a year, I think.
Were you involved with BSJ in any other ways that we haven't discussed yet, besides tutoring families in this group that you started?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Personally, how successful do you think your efforts were in meeting the goals of BASJ? Do you believe you did well? I mean, it sounded like you were very successful with both families.
I hope so. I mean,
yeah.
I guess I was. I sure enjoyed it. I mean, I hope they got something out of it. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you feel should be discussed here?
Oh, just in general about the whole thing? It was just really a fascinating volunteer experience, just because as an American, I didn't know anything about Uzbekistan. I didn't even know it existed. And then I meet these people who are from there, and they were telling me how their lives were, what they had to do to survive in Uzbekistan. And so that was fascinating. I mean, the stories, you know, since it was a communist country, which it wasn't working well, I mean, basically, you know, they had stores, but there was nothing ever on the shelves. So they had to barter for everything and trade what they had to get something else, like, you know, trade some tires for some medicine for someone or something like that. And you had to really be on top of it, and I think that made them smarter as humans than we are, because all we have to do is go to the store and buy. Everything's available for us. So the experience they had was just amazing. Now, I think another interesting thing is that they were in a higher economic situation in Uzbekistan than they had to start with here. So that was sort of a come down for them, you know, as far as the economic situation and the financial situation. So that was interesting too. I mean, I could tell that they had pretty classy, upscale type of homes and stuff. Even though everything was traded, instead of they could hardly buy anything, but somehow they managed to figure out how to get things and food and, you know, nice furniture and all that stuff. And they had to leave that all behind, basically.
You said they brought two baggages?
Two suitcases each.
That's
Can you believe it? I mean, for all the stuff they had, they could only bring 2 suitcases.
Were there any other stories like that from the families that you were involved with that particularly stick out in your memory that you'd like to talk about?
More stories.
I know you mentioned something, you know, before we started, but I didn't know if you thought about that. Just any other stories that stick out to you?
I think I'd probably remember it later. I just didn't have time to write it down.
No, it's fine. If you can't remember, that's okay.
Yeah. Off the top of my head,
no, that's okay.
Yeah.
So nothing else comes to mind that you'd like to talk about?
Have we gone through this whole thing, or okay? Let's see. How have they adjusted? Well, I think they've adjusted pretty well. The wife's parents, who are still here in Boulder, they're doing very well. I mean, the husband is very good on the computer. He figured out how to use a personal computer and the internet to do a lot of different things, and with his limited English. I mean, as you get older, it's harder and harder to learn English, you know. And then I know that they're socially, they're very out there, involved. I have a lot of friends. What else? I know what I can say. I sort of became, since I was single at the time, I didn't have my own family, so they sort of adopted me to some extent, and they would invite me to their gatherings, and I was learning Russian because I could hear them speak Russian when all the relatives gathered around, and they were speaking Russian to each other, and then I was learning it and trying to speak it a little. They gave me some delicious Russian food and recipes. What else? So that was a lot of fun. I would go over there. Now, my main family moved to Broomfield, so from Boulder at some point. And so during that time, I would leave my job at IBM and drive down to Broomfield, and then I would spend the evening with them, and then I'd sleep in their house, and they had an extra bedroom. So they would give me dinner, and I'd play with their little boy, and that was a lot of fun too. So I had dinner and breakfast at their house, and then I'd come back home to Boulder. Oh, I also helped the mom do birthday parties for the little boy. Plan them and then run them.
So you're more than just this tutor to them. You kind of established a solid relationship with the family.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't just a tutor.
Yeah.
I guess I became more like, I was like the third daughter, because the family had 3 daughters, one of which the wife I was working with, mainly, and then they have 2 other daughters, one of them never really came to Boulder, but 2 of them are in Boulder. So I was sort of considered the 4th daughter.
Very good.
So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I really look forward to on Fridays, I think I'd go over there and stay overnight and then come back on Saturday. So I was really looking forward, because at that point I was getting burned out on computer programming. So I couldn't wait to leave work and go to my Russian family and have some good food and hear some good stories. And then, I mean, after that, I just loved teaching English as a second language, and I have a whole bookshelf full of that kind of materials, English as a second language books, and learning about like phrasal verbs. And I mean, since I didn't have any formal training in that, I was sort of trying to teach myself and get materials on my own to teach English as a second language. And I'd love to do that professionally as soon as I have time. But right now, there's no time with the kids.
When you were teaching, were there any aspects of either grammar, sentence structure, any type of the English language that they would have a hard time picking up on, like more than others that you recall?
Idioms are very hard. We did specific practice with idioms and expressions. Sentence structure, there probably was hard things with sentence structure, but I can't remember the details. Wait, there was one other thing I thought of. No, I forgot. What was it? Well, maybe I also brought this to Alex. I would get these columns from Ann Landers, the ones that talk about etiquette and what Ann Landers, and there was another one.
Anyway.
Oh well. Anyway, they're sort of simple out of the newspaper. They're sort of easier to read, so I use those to help teach English, because they're sort of like everyday etiquette problems or everyday relationship problems, and I use that to help generate conversation and like that.
All right.
And there, there's tons more. I mean, I spent probably from '93 until just recently. Well, after Ben was born, I sort of stopped.
What year was that? What year was that?
2004.
2004.
So from '93 to 2004, I was heavily involved. So what would that be? That's 11 years. Yeah. So I was really involved for 11 years, and then it sort of petered off to now almost nothing. I mean, I still owe the grandma a call. She was calling me quite a bit, like on Jewish holidays and on birthdays. And she called me probably about 6 weeks ago, and I haven't returned her call. I'm sorry.
If she's listening right now.
So, yeah, it was a great experience. I really, really liked it. That was the pinnacle of my volunteering career, at least. Yeah,
good.
Marvelous.
Well, Cathy, I want to thank you for your time today and our discussion. I think we got a lot to take from it.
Well,
so I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.